it's come to me what I wanted to hit on, and that would be the recruiting end of this. So we've talked about resources and backing and support from the university, but one thing that nobody can resolve is where your university is located, and certainly you can put resources into recruiting, and therefore you can travel and do all the things that you need to do. But in regards to having location that SEC schools have, that Texas schools have, that USC has in Southern California, to having 4 and 5 stars on every corner versus being in Oklahoma. Now, some people may look at Oklahoma's recruiting classes and say, Mark, what are you talking about? 6th in the nation, 8th in the nation, 9th in the nation. Okay, those are really good recruiting classes. You can certainly win in the Big 12 with those recruiting classes. But, and I'm not a recruiting guy, but I know enough and have detailed enough through the numbers to show that there's a difference between the distance between 1 and 4 is not 4 and 8. It falls off a cliff decidedly. 8 and 40, that's the difference between 1 and 8 in this last recruiting class. It's decided. And maybe looking at, okay, I can recruit really well at Oklahoma. We're a power. We can bring people from Texas and elsewhere in the country, but it's more difficult than sitting in anywhere in the SEC or in Southern California and recruiting 4 and 5 stars.
Well, and one thing I learned from doing this series with Keegan, and I'm not a recruiting expert by any means myself, but Lincoln Riley, he maps out his recruiting strategies, and you know, other coaches probably do this as well. But Keegan impressed upon me over the course of this series the larger point that Lincoln Riley maps out his recruiting strategies because he's looking at the style of players that he has on a given year's roster, and he's trying to fit. He's not thinking about, well, I need an offensive lineman to go with this quarterback. It's a lot more than that. It's about, you know, what are this player's strengths and what are this player's weaknesses, and how do I get a full roster where all the strengths are maximized and all the weaknesses are minimized. He's not thinking so much about positions. He's thinking about playing style. He's thinking about packages of attributes in players. So Lincoln Riley has a very detailed recruiting blueprint, and it's not so much about, you know, how do I get my offensive line set up? It's how do I provide roster pieces that complement each other the best. Like I have an inside read on this particular wide receiver, so I need to put this particular running back with him. So like, I'm not thinking about stars. I'm not thinking about part of the country. I'm talking about the particular kinds of players who work together. That's something that Keegan educated me on during this series. So I'm sure that given the move to the SEC, Lincoln Riley wanted to get as many resources lined up so that he could craft his roster exactly the way he wanted to, you know, to build a particular roster for 2023, for 2024, for 2025. You know, he has exacting standards. So like, that's another part of this, that Lincoln Riley is a perfectionist. And so if you're a perfectionist, you're going to want to have everything available at your disposal. You're not going to want to do it on the cheap. You're not going to want to half measure. You're not going to want to do something 3/4 of the way. You want to do it 100%. And that's where we go back to that Oklahoma was hedging its bet just a little. And again, not unreasonably for the Sooners who are watching the voice of college football. They were waiting to see what Lincoln Riley would do in 2021 with a stacked roster. So like, that's fair from Oklahoma's standpoint. But nevertheless, USC has undeniably given Lincoln Riley more of everything than Oklahoma has. And so, you know, that was a driver of Lincoln Riley's decision. And if you're being a businessman, you know, if this is certainly big business we're talking about here. From that angle, it's hard to blame Lincoln Riley for the choice that he made.
Folks, part 5 of the the Riley Files is in the live chat right now. So I just dropped it in the live chat. So go right there and you can follow directly to episode 5 of the Riley Files. And once you do, you will want to, like me, listen to all 12. That's the last one that's been released. and you can go through the entire series, and they're being released one per week. Correct, Matt?
It's an uneven schedule. Like, we released 3 episodes during Major League Baseball All-Star Week. You know, All-Star Monday and All-Star Wednesday are the slowest days of the sports year. So we actually loaded up during that week, and now we've kind of cooled down. We just want people to listen to episode 5. We'll probably get out episodes 6 and 7 this week, and then we'll probably have multiple show releases in the first 2 weeks of August to round out the series.